Hey, this is Tyler with TJack Survival. I have a whole bunch of field review videos of knives, but I don't have a lot of what I would call the tabletop review. So I'm gonna knock out a whole bunch of tabletop reviews to give you the specs and some close-ups of all of the knives that I demo. All right, stay tuned. This guy is the Bark River Classic Drop Point Hunter. I've had this for a couple of years. I demoed it on Blade HQ in the long-term bug out series. There's like 3 or 4 videos where we went into the Book Cliffs range of Utah and did some backcountry mock long-term video with a horse outfitter called the Flying J Outfitters. So the first thing I did is I covered this in, actually, let me tell you the truth here, I screwed up and forgot. This is the very first blade I ever had. Forgot to wrap this in saran wrap. Got the sheath wet, put it in there, shaped it, figured it wouldn't rust that quick. Like 10 minutes later I pulled it out, it was covered in rust because the tannic acid and all the acids and salts and stuff in a sheath, when they get really wet, will destroy your knife unless you've got some sort of coating or oil that protects it. I learned the hard way. I put it on a polishing wheel. It looks great now. I cleaned it right up. Currently, it has linseed oil, boiled linseed oil in it. That's what I use to protect my blades in the winter. I use it on my axes all the time. I'll cover the whole thing. Cover the wood handle, cover the hatchet blade, everything. And this one, I quite literally dipped it in one side, dipped it in the other, and it gives it a beautiful smell. It really preserves the wood, makes the wood look really nice. It leaves a little bit of a film on the blade, but that's a waterproof film that as I use will slowly remove and it will protect the blade. I do not recall the steel type. I think this is an A2 steel. I'm gonna have to look it up. Like I say, I've had this for a few years. But I'd like to do the tabletop reviews for all of these knives because I get so many requests. So the attributes about this that are good, go to Google and type in Bob Loveless. Bob Loveless designed what we call the Classic Drop Point Hunter, this knife, back in the 70s if I do recall correctly. And prior to that, a lot of knives basically looked like this, okay? They had that swoop up, which this is a great knife I'm going to get to in another review, but they looked more like a Bowie and less like this. What happened was, well, let me stop right there real quick. They also had a lot of skinners, so it's kind of your option was like a Bowie or a Skinner, but there wasn't really anything in between. Well, Bob designed this slightly drooping drop point, which we call the Drop Point Hunter, that you can run your thumb underneath the tip right there and hold on to it, and it is a solid grip that you hold this knife with, and it gives you the ability to gut up an animal without ripping open the gut sac. So basically you can hit it skinning that way, skinning this way, control it. Kind of comes here to a point, which is nice because my pinky can control the blade direction, and it gives me a lot of fine motor skill control over this blade. This design essentially revolutionized the way that blades were made at that time. We almost for a while forgot about, we never really forgot about Bowies, but we almost forgot about Skinners. In my opinion, you haven't really seen a lot of Skinners lately, but we're starting to see them come back with the Nessamuk knife and the semi-Skinner blades that you'll see. One example is the Bark River Kalahari semi-Skinner blade. So, this one's a full tang, it's got a spot for a lanyard, it's got a beautiful wood handle. Bark River knives come in all sorts of handle types. I even saw a mammoth tooth handle, so it's basically a mammoth that is a fossilized mammoth that they put the tooth on there. It looks really cool. I've seen pine cones, all sorts of stuff. As you can see, I beat the snot out of this knife. It's held up. I've had zero chipping on the blade because it's an incredibly sharp and well-built convex grind, which gives it more strength. It's about 300 or 400% stronger on the tip. Essentially what's happening is it kind of tilts to a point, and that gives it more strength laterally, so if I'm sliding it, it's not going to chip. Anyway, I love this knife. It's very lightweight. I use it as a neck knife quite often. You just can't really go wrong with this as a hunter or a survival knife or a bushcraft type knife. This is the classic drop point hunter from Bark River. If you have any questions or comments, please leave your comments down below. I will put a link where you can go find these in my comments section, and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching TJack Survival.